for many years you were let's just say that you were the guide. You were the nocturnal guide for many people in Melbourne, which was that Penny was the person who curated our nights and would tell us where we should go, with whom we should go, who we should spend our time. And that's a very interesting role to play.
You make it sound so good, Soph.
But did you feel a sense of a burden that you were having the capacity to define your generation?
Oh my God. You know, I often look back at that and I think, sometimes I feel I was a late a bloomer, meaning that people like you seem to be perpetually 23, or at least when I met you, I feel like that's how old you were, and achieving all this stuff. And I felt I'd had this, limbo for maybe until my late 20s, and that maybe it took someone who wasn't actually going out to write that 15,000 words about where to go out. It was like this, I was that one piece of the jigsaw puzzle that could do that, because if you were actually going out, you couldn't do it. So, I remember one girl came up to me once, and she just moved to Melbourne. She was from New York, and she said, I know what's going on. You're like that school newspaper girl who's always trying to interview the jocks. And I was like, I'm proud. That makes me proud. I feel I had a role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know that when you're someone that works in a particular area, maybe even one that's associated with pleasure or leisure, you can find it quite hard to relate to that. So even in music, often I don't listen to music at home because I just want silence. Did you find that in your regular kind of social life, did it make that the night somewhat of a warped kind of professional situation all the time?
You know, that is so true. And I didn't realise until I didn't have to do it anymore that I was there somewhere by choice. And I didn't even have to be there. And I didn't even have to, I could just leave. Or, you know, it's so freeing.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what everyone was experiencing all those
you're
years.
always allowed to leave. I mean, I don't know what your employers told you.
Yeah, there are
but you could have left.
many openings here.
It's true. What were you saying, Soph?
Well, I was just going to
the
say...
anxiety of it.
Well, just, did you find that there were observations that you could make about patterns of how people wish to step into that space together? And even over the time that you were doing it, which was a significant amount of time, did things shift? Did people's relationship to the night and to, you know, losing themselves change at all?
I think so. I feel like when I started writing it, and I don't know if this was just me or whether the whole city changed, but my perception was that at the beginning it was there was a kind of, I felt a chaotic feeling in Melbourne, say the mid-2000s, where I didn't know how much structure there was, but it seemed to me that the cool kids were the ones that were destroying things. Like they were destructive in a way. I don't like, there was that Friday night fights club, you know, and they would go, but you know, it was more than that. It was like this sense of extremeness and clubbiness, but then it seemed to expand out throughout the late 2000s into like more of a participatory feeling in Melbourne. And I think I've always said this to you, and I think you agree with me, that Melbourne, I don't know if this is true, but Melbourne seems unique in that people are willing to give you one chance. So if you say, I'm going to put on a piano festival, or like something even weirder, or like I'm going to, I don't know, plant a whole bunch of trees in this milk bar, and then we're all going to, you know, and then people won't reject that. They'll go once. You know, if it costs less than $12. Yeah. And I think that's quite amazing about this city, actually. And I felt that really grow, I think, anyway. Do you agree with that?
I feel like, I've retreated a little bit. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? You go, I love the night now, and we all, I mean, I probably spend more time out and kind of feeling the night than I did then, probably because I was so surrounded by people and activity and everything, which I've kind of retreated from. But you
did the night, didn't you do the graveyard shift on Triple R?
I
Wasn't
did.
That where you started?
When I was 17, I started doing Triple R on the radio, and that was a whole other experience of the night, which was sort of people on Xanax calling Triple R and asking for the Velvet Underground. Which was
Did you play it?
Always. You have to give in to the guys on Xanax. Okay, well, you know, Bill and I were talking a little bit before just about, I suppose, you know, the forming nature of light. I guess the other thing that casts gives us the capacity to navigate is words. And just coming back to what you do and what you were doing in the past and with Good Copy now, given that our relationship to what we see and feel like we want to do is guided by words, and you had such an instructive impact on the vernacular of this way that many people write now about what's going on.
Do you think? Oh,
I think so, and
Really?
I'm not a sycophant in front of words, but are you aware of that? I mean, it's hard. You're modest, so you probably won't agree, but it seems to me that you had quite an indelible impact on the way that things were written about, what we should be doing with our time and spending our time doing. Was that something that you were aware of in your own style, or was it just the way that you kind of viewed things that were going on?
I think it was... my only thing that I strived for and strive for is not selling it. Tell it, don't sell it. So it's like this thing is worth writing about. Do it as straight as you can, I think. I mean, I don't know. Did you feel like it was flowery language? Is that what you mean?
No, not at all.
wasn't.
But there was a very matter-of-fact inclusiveness to it, which was that even though there were lots of things that one had to know about and be invited to, and there were lots of fun with lots of fabulous things going on, ultimately we were all given a right to know about it. So you became the portal into what was going on.
That makes me feel great. I think maybe I was just channeling, because often writers are left out. I think that, well, at least they choose to leave themselves out and just observe things. And maybe it was that fear that I had of not having the right outfit, or, you know, not remembering someone's name or not saying the right thing, that I just channeled through it. And because the truth is, everyone is, except for a few people, everyone's that anxious, you know, aren't they?
But
It's becoming a self-help session.
Penny, to be fair, you are the person who just came up on the spot with the idea of the milk bar full of trees, which I understand Melbourne Festival's already commissioned for next year. So that is exciting. I'm just building on what Sophia's asking. That thing about developing a language for a city, how well do you think daytime Melbourne, reading its articles, understands what nighttime Melbourne's like?
I think there's a huge gap. I mean, this
How
is being
so?
recorded, but I would say, and I'm quoting someone here, but the middle of the road is wide.
In Melbourne? Culturally?
I want to read some more. I don't know. I love niche Melbourne, and I feel like there's a huge space to write for it to be written about more. I know that there are some exciting writing projects starting up, but it's not all night noodle markets and stuff. I think Melbourne has a lot that's mysterious and dangerous and strange and exciting and experimental that isn't visible to most people, but should be, because I think Melbourne is more accepting, and if they knew about it, would go.
Who have you read that you think writes Melbourne properly? Melbourne Nights in particular.
Oh gosh, that's really tough.
Sorry, question without notice. Who do you love?
You mean currently? Who
Anyone.
does it?
Who's
I
written
think
it well?
Ben Eltham wrote a great thing about the Nicholas Building that I thought was the You've got to Google Ben Eltham Nicholas Building, because I thought that was the definitive piece on it. That guy's a straight talker. I think I really like Kane Daniel. I think he is a straight talker, and I am biased because I employed him for so many years. But I think that he writes with an abandon that is almost horrifying.
Do you think for the kind of work you do, there's room to write about the contemplative night and the solitary night? Do you think, given the sort of the role of something that 3000 was for its time, which was ultimately about community and bringing people together, how much space does that allow for aloneness in the night?
Well, I think that's a good description of what 3000 never did and doesn't do. And I think its role was to make people leave and go and do something. It was a directive to participate. It wasn't really a directive to think necessarily. I wonder what does that well, though.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
to be together, but together alone in the night. You know, so there are so many things that are on, like White Night and all these things that are just about mass coming together, scale, big, and where everyone's kind of slammed together, and it becomes this kind of a trough, but and a wonderful trough, city of Melbourne. But
I don't know whether the word trough or Penny's face when you said White Night was more illustrative, but between the two of them.
Well, I think that Melbourne and many cities are very interested in comings together because that's where the transformative element can.
But we're anxious about it at night too, aren't we? I mean, the coming together of people at night in a way that's not controlled is every nightmare of every Conservative government anywhere.
Yeah, you know.
I mean, what do you think about this idea that Melbourne at night is a dangerous place?
I think it is Safety Town. As Bill Henson says, I was reminded of my friend's blog, Dangerous Girl in Safety Town. Well, she's the same one that said I was interviewing the jocks, but she moved here and started that blog because she was so horrified by all the level crossings and everything's cordoned off and we're all so safe. And I drove up to the Dandenongs for New Year's Eve, halfway there till my car broke down, and then I made it there. And there was all these people sitting on the top of the Dandenongs at the lookout for the New Year's Eve. And it was kind of so inadequate and funny because the fireworks were tiny. It was like this. But it was so dangerous. Like, I sort of loved how dangerous it was. There was sort of your mum and, your gran, and they're sitting in like these camp chairs, and then the kids running around. But then there's this cliff and like sort of drunk teenagers like stumbling around with bottles. And I thought, this is awesome. Actually, you feel much more connected to the people than you do if you're protected by some middleman. And I loved it. I think we need more dangerous activities like that.
Well, I mean, if you compare cities like Sydney and Melbourne, Sydney has the kind of scenic, epic majesty to it, and just is so surrounded by natural beauty with the beaches and everything that perhaps people don't need the late night culture of inner city Melbourne laneways so much because they've got the shorelines and they've got that immediacy. So the danger's everywhere. They've got the sharks and everything. Kind of.
I was thinking about yogurt and like healthy mornings, but you were talking about sharks. Yeah, we do see ourselves as darker though, don't we? And we kind of take pride in that. Like Sydney does see itself as healthy and daytime city, and we don't have that. I mean, we've got parks, but we don't have Bondi Beach, and
we don't have shark and yogurt. We have crystal meth. It's almost as exciting.
Speak for yourself. I don't know.
And what about you, Penny? So, given the changes and that you're now good copy, I mean, you're enjoying the night? You kind of in this point.
My God.
You've got more time to write. You've got more time to do the things that you kind of value. So how do you relate to the night?
I have to tell you, it's like this wonderland. Like not having a weekly deadline, not having that weekly 15,000 words is so freeing. And you go, right, it's 6 o'clock. I'm doing nothing. And for a while you just do nothing. Like you literally just watch the block. And then
and that's nothing. We're talking about vast expanses. That's nothing.
And also, nothing. But I think I'm getting a bit older, so I actually do shut down at 6 o'clock now. I still start at 6 a.m. But I always used to find that I wasn't doing well writing at night. I think you get into your own head at night and you start to become a bit poetic and egomaniacal. And in the morning, you're more sort of Hemingway and nasty and direct and, but I do like being a 36-year-old person now without a deadline. Yeah. How old are you now? So is that the secret?
How old am I? I am.
No, I had questions.
Wow, that is convenient. Nicely timed. Sophia Brous off the stage. Immaculate timing.